Hey folks, fellow travelers in vegetable land. This is part two of your seed starting videos. I'm now gonna start some vegetable seeds for this year. Hopefully, some of you guys will see the results of this in the Corinth gardens pretty soon. So just to recap, I'm gonna take my seed starting mix here. Again, there are lots of different soil-less mixes that are perfectly good for seed starting. It helps if you have one that it needs to drain well, and it needs to be reasonably free of pathogenic bacteria and fungi and fungus-like organisms, like mostly fungi that cause damping off and other problems. So it helps to get a packaged mix. It doesn't have to be peat-based, since we all know that's highly unsustainable, but it is, for the time being, cost-effective, and it works. I always put it in a bowl, and I mix it by hand to get it wet. If you dump this stuff dry in a flat or in a cell pack or in a pot and try to get it wet, all of you have probably tried this at some point. What happens? It just floats away. It's very hard to get wet unless you actually dig around in there with your hand. And what you're going for is getting it uniformly wet, but not soaking wet. You should not be able to squeeze water out of it like a dishcloth, and you should definitely not have any water standing in the bottom. So I'm just going to mix it like that till I get it about the consistency I want. Let me turn this down so you can actually see it in my beautiful kitchen here. There, that's about right. You know, if I try really hard, I can probably squeeze some water out of that, but it's not waterlogged. It doesn't feel heavy with water. Now, you can start stuff either in a cell pack like this. This is a 4-pack. There's 6-packs. There's even smaller ones too, or something like this. Either way, for the majority of plants, you will have to take your seedlings out of this and repot them into a bigger pot at some point. Even if you use something like this, where it's designed to have one plant per cell, four in this thingy, it's still usually beneficial to bump them up into bigger pots. We call that bumping up, and we will cover that later. But for the time being, it doesn't really even matter much which one you started in. You don't want to start them in something too deep, because then you're just asking for trouble with waterlogged, damp soil at the bottom breeding pathogens. So these are good. Something 4 inches deep is just going to be a waste of expensive potting mix that will not serve you very well for starting small seedlings. So I'm going to pack these in there. If you leave it just like this, just fluff, what's going to happen is after you've watered this for a few days, it's going to settle and you're going to end up with a half full pack. And the worst part of that is you won't know how deep your seeds are. So I like to pack it down, but not pack it down too much. I would say a good rule of thumb is pack it down about as much as a slice of, give it the texture of a piece of cake. You don't want the texture of fudge, okay? That's fudge. Fudge is not the goal here. And you also don't want the texture of, I don't know, cotton candy. You want it to be in the nice middle ground where it's soft and fluffy, and your little baby seedlings will be able to put down a radical, that first important root, into it, but not too deep. All right, so I filled a few of these things, tamped them down, but not too much. Getting that texture right is a common rookie problem. Remember, go for a nice solid piece of pound cake. Maybe I should clarify. Don't go for angel food. Go for pound cake. Don't go for fudge. All right, so I got my nice pound cake texture here. I'm gonna rinse my hands so that I can not mess up my seed packets too bad. And let's see, what do we got today? I've got some lettuce seeds. Look at that, iceberg. Nothing but the best. This was given to me a while ago. I just think it's fun. I'm gonna go pretty heavy on these because these are old seeds and lettuce seeds don't always survive real well. And I'm gonna actually use one of these 4-packs to do 2 different kinds of seeds. That works just fine as long as they're not things that require a crazy difference in time for germination and a crazy difference in terms of temperature or anything else like that. Otherwise, I'm going to get very frustrated very fast. And then I'm going to try, this is a lettuce relative, also in the Asteraceae, and that'll be in your notes next unit, called Radicchio. It's a species of chicory. It's another thing that likes cooler temperatures. Gonna sprinkle. You could even germinate these without a heat mat, and I'm sprinkling those pretty heavy. These are all old seeds, and I'm just expecting that even if a lot of them do come up, once they're up and have true leaves on them, I am gonna break them up and put them in separate things. Neither one of these things needs a lot of depth to its seeds to germinate. Both of them germinate in response to light. I don't magically know that. I just know that, lettuce and its relatives are like that because that's how they are, and I've done it before. Most seeds, you're going to want to go for the general rule of thumb, which is you plant stuff 2.5 times as deep as the seed diameter. So if you had a big seed like a bean, that's 1/2 inch across, you might plant it, and 2 inches down. Actually, with a bean, 1.5 to 2 inches down. That for a big bean. If you had something teeny tiny like a bok choy seed, here's some bok choy. Those are little. You're going to plant it less than maybe about 1/4 inch down. You don't have to get that perfect. Just try to go for the right ballpark. So this is Shanghai bok choy. This can be direct seeded or planted outside. I'm going to sprinkle those in there. I'm going to take a little extra soil and tamp it down. Seeds like to be in close contact with soil, whether it's indoors or outdoors. And I'm going to make sure they're not too deep. Then I'm going to give them a little bit of extra water in my sink here. Just a little bit. You want to dribble it. What you don't want to do is blast it with a hose. Like if you're in a greenhouse and you have a hose with a watering wand on it, if you blast this, you're going to move all your seeds around. So try not to do that, folks. Going to gently water in all of those. Not too much, just a little supplementary water. It's kind of like when we plant a tree, you want to water it in, even if your weather is conducive to tree planting, you want to water it in to settle the soil, make sure it's touching the roots. Well, it's the same thing. You want it to settle and make sure it's touching all the seeds. Then I take a piece of cellophane and I put it on top, and I just loosely kind of crimp it in place and snag it on the edges. And this is going to grow under my grow lights in my spare room on the heat mat. Although the lettuce, you could probably get to germinate just fine without it. Almost everything else benefits a lot from that heat mat. So there you have it. And then I'm just going to wait. And once the seedlings emerge, I'm going to loosen the plastic, wait a day, loosen it some more, wait a day, and keep doing that until I think my plants are ready to rip it off. Thanks, folks.